This video discusses the search module of the ClearRoadmap application. As you launch the search, you will notice on the left-hand side there is selecting device type. You must select at least one of these device types, or you can select multiple. PMA originals are higher risk devices such as a pacemaker. PMA supplements document any changes to the approved originals. 510Ks have been cleared by the FDA. They're low to medium risk devices such as a diabetes monitor, and they have to prove themselves to be substantially equivalent to a device already on the market. That is called a predicate. De novos are also low to medium risk devices, but they do not have a previous predicate on the market. They're novel devices, and thus they have some additional steps to take with FDA to prove that they are low to medium risk. We mentioned predicates up in the 510K earlier. And what the predicate data set is a data set that ClearRoadmap has created. What we've done is we've extracted out of the 510K summary the predicate, either the K number, the BK number, or the recognized standard. And we've created a data set, which means that now you can search on devices that have been referenced as a predicate. In many ways, you can find what's called the grandfather device, the device that has been used by industry over and over and over again as the predicate. These predicates are what a 510K application uses to establish substantial equivalence. Again, it can be a K number, a BK number, or a recognized standard. Where it is a BK number or a K number, you can use the predicate ID window and type in the number of a device that you think may have been used as a substantially equivalent device. If you return a list of devices down below, then those, once you select them, you'll see in the predicate section will have that number that you used to search. A little bit confusing, but think about it this way. That predicate ID has been documented inside a 510K summary and basically saying, I'm like that predicate, and thus I'm safe and effective if I can determine that I'm tested to be equivalent to that predicate device. Now you can search on it. We're the only database that lets you search like that. The recalls database contains both the PMA and 510K recalls. Now keep in mind, we think of recalls when things get pulled off the shelf, but there's also labeling recalls, and this is a fantastic area to learn and improve quality upstream. So this is a place where if you select the data set of recalls, and then later we'll show you about keywords, you can actually search for some of the reasons for recall and get very specific and learn from past mistakes from industry and incorporate that into your device design if you're in the process of designing. Or you can do research to see what are some of the most common reasons for recalls, or what are some of the trends. So this is a fantastic way to be able to really dig into the recall. One important note to make of how we return the recalls information, because our database driven off of the dates, if you're going to select a date range, the dates are off of the device's approval date. So as well for recalls, if you're going to look for a date range, those date ranges are going to actually be the recall device's approval date, not the actual recall date. Now we are coming out with a more advanced, stay tuned, but for now just think about when you search for recalls and you use the date range, it is the date of the approval for that device, not necessarily the date of the recall. Otherwise, as we'll show you shortly, this is a very sophisticated way to do searches of recalls and find some pretty interesting trends. Now you have the opportunity to add additional data sets to your search: clinical trials, CMS reimbursement, standards, and product codes. Now let's just jump in and do a couple of searches with the constraints that you can use at the top of the center screen. On the left, we've selected PMA 510K de novo, and then we can type in diabetes for a product name and return a list of diabetes products or applicants such as Medtronic. As you can see, Medtronic has various different divisions that submits their products. You can also search very specifically, such as the product ID or the recall ID. Just hover over the question mark to see what format you should utilize. On specific product codes, there are thousands of product codes, and if you're not familiar with them, you can go to our home page under Other Products and download a free spreadsheet that has the product codes and their descriptions. Medical Specialty is a drop-down menu that lets you select the clinical category that you like to search. These are also the regulatory categories that FDA organizes their review process. You can even add to your search the date range that the devices were either approved or cleared. And as we mentioned earlier, you can add the clinical trials data set to your regulatory search. So now about the keyword section. This is where we've extracted with our natural language processing in context data that is in the underlying PDF documents on the government websites. So it lets you search what currently is not searchable, such as indication of use, adverse effect, and then link it with searches, recall reasons, or study information. On the right-hand side, you have the option of putting in keywords one or several, separated by a comma. All keywords must be in the sections selected. If you want some keywords, such as you're not quite sure if the word is going to be mobile or software or another type of acronym for software like SW, then you could put in some keywords because you just want to know if it has to do with mobility and so on. Okay, so now let's jump in and actually do a search. We'll select PMA, 510K, de novo, the clinical trials database for a cardiovascular device that has an indication of use of a stent. And we're going to search and see what kind of devices we have returned. When we take a look, they're all primarily PMAs, even though we had selected the 510K data set and data set. So we'll go back up and we'll expand our search to include usage and device classification. And now when we rerun the search, you can see that 510Ks are in there as well. So this is where you can expand and contract your searches. This time, let's add a study outcome, and we will then rerun the search with stent being a study outcome. And we see the Boston Scientific as the first device in the list, a couple Boston Scientifics there, and we scroll down and we see again 510Ks and PMAs, quite a few of them. Now let's contract our search with restenosis. And now what we can see is restenosis, at least as a study outcome, maybe even indication of use, maybe, but we can see there's a far few devices. Now let's select one of them. And as we scroll down here, you have the supplements. What's neat about the supplements is that we actually expand some of the information. These are defaulted fields, and as you can see on the left-hand side, we have the FDA approval. You can add fields such as contraindication, adverse effects, biocompatibility, as well as maybe date received, if you'd like to compare the date received with the date approval. And then you can close the menu of the FDA approval clearance. Same with recognized standards, clinical trials. And for recalls, we're going to add the FDA cause, the action, and manufacturer cause, as well as the quantity and distribution. We'll close that up as well. We could do that for manufacturer. So let's scroll down, and we're going to take a look at the supplements. What's neat here is that we have not just the number, but also the title of the supplement and what type of supplement. So you don't have to waste your time looking at 30 days when really the panel tracks are more important. And here now you have all the indication of use, adverse events, biocompatibility, and you can scroll down and take a look at the recall, how many are in commerce, as well as there were the URLs for the CMS potential reimbursement policies. And what we can do here out of the search is we can select one of the supplements and we can actually launch the supplement. And now we can look at the clinical trial associated with the supplement. And as well, you can see the totality of the device in one screen. I know we're going pretty fast through this, but this lets you have the view of one device and be able to scroll down and on that screen see the regulatory, the clinical trial, as well as the reimbursement information.